Hello, we are back with the Glimpse of Africa author series. My name is Michael Hyacinth, and today we are streaming live from the Glimpse of Africa Festival in downtown Grand Rapids. In my next conversation, I get an opportunity to meet and introduce you to Shingi Mavima, the author of Pashena, The Dirt Field. Shingi, it's good to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everybody tuning into this. Indeed.
Awesome. Please tell us a bit about yourself and then the inspiration behind The Dirt Field.
Oh, all right. So the name, as Michael said, is Shingi Mavima. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. Lived the vast part of my life in a city called Mutare. Shout out to Mutare. Which is in the eastern part of Zimbabwe, borders Mozambique actually. Then for high school, I had moved to Harare, which is the capital city, which is probably what most people know if they know anything about Zimbabwe. So I lived in both cities, moved to the U.S. After that, came to Grand Rapids, where I went to college at Grand Valley State for my bachelor's. Then I got my master's and PhD after that. So that's a little bit about my, and currently I teach at the University of Toledo. What else? That's me in a nutshell. I like to think I'm an artist. I'm a writer, clearly, nice. And I do a few other things. So, nice. But that's the essence of me.
That's
indeed.
Awesome. So The Dirt Field. Please tell us a little bit about the name of the book, and of course the foundation of what inspired you to write this book.
So Pashena, the Dirt Field is a literal translation, right? But you know how when you translate things, you may not capture the full essence of
Correct.
it. Pashena is it's a shrine unto its own, right?
Correct.
And I don't mean that literally, but the Pashena was the name of the dirt field that me and my friends back in Mutare, Zimbabwe, would get together and play football. Soccer. Indeed. And it was really something of our fashioning from the beginning, from finding this piece of land as 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old boys and clearing it and turning it into this thing. But that is sort of what is important is not so much the autobiographical aspects of it. I think those are very important as well. But what is important about Pashena as a shrine is it is a place from which we see the world around us evolve. So the story itself is part autobiographical, but more importantly, we are seeing this community we love so much, this country that means so much to us change. And this is the late 90s. If for those who in the know, you will know that Zimbabwe had a thriving economy, was one of these post-colonial economic miracles, and in the late 1990s you start to see it decline, and there's a lot of factors that go into the political situation, HIV/AIDS running havoc in the country and so forth, and we are all affected by that, right? And we are seeing the world around us change from the vantage point of this field.
9 and 10-year-old, were you able to make that acknowledgement at that age? Being so young, were you able to see that, wait a minute, this space that I'm enjoying represents what is now and what potentially is going to happen to our country?
So I think that's a great question, right? Because I think oftentimes as adults we still don't see it when we're living through the moment, right? Like, right now, for example, we're going through this pandemic. Everything will change, right, going forward. But we'll be able to look backward and say, like, this is the point at which things changed. And right now we might say, like, I'm taking time off work and things like that. So I don't think, and of course as kids, we would even be less able to but I think we were able to make out certain things that are very important. Part of it was because these things were at our doorsteps, right? So when a friend, when one of the characters in the book when both his parents die because of HIV/AIDS, and his 15, 16-year-old sister is left at the head of that household. These are things that we are living through, right? We can talk about, I can write about them later on in adulthood, but we are living through it, right? When the moment when our parents start to lose jobs and they now have to go buy blankets in a neighboring country and come sell them for a living. We are living through that in the moment. So what it may have meant in the bigger picture may not have been clear, but that's one of the things that I think I strived for in this book, was not to tell the story as adult me who has seen how this played out,
Right.
but to tell the story as 10, 11-year-old me who was saying like, oh, so this is interesting. We have never seen this before. What is going on here?
Interesting.
And then, of course, when you read that with the gift of hindsight, you say like, oh, these are those moving parts here, and this is what became of the situation.
What's interesting is if I look back at my childhood growing up in the Bronx, where the basketball courts were where we were. If I can look back now, I can see changes that have occurred in my life based on the time I spent there. But at that time, you can get a sense of, wait a minute, something is going on here. But now, as you mentioned, hindsight is 2020. It really plays a key role. So space in where we live and where we spend our time can truly be a reflection of perhaps where we ought to go.
Absolutely, and one of the things which is a very important thing I was going for with this story is relatability, right? And of course, every writer sets out to be relatable to at least to some audience. But what I wanted to do in writing this as a story, and an African story at that, and I think Africa as a whole has a very strong literary tradition, right? Very, if you talk about the Ngugis and the and Achebes and so forth. And I'm coming in recognizing my positionality in that spectrum, and I wanted to write a story that, while being true to Mutare, being true to Dangamvura, being true to Pashena, is also a story that is not confined to the exotic.
Correct.
Right. So when you're telling me, it's actually right on cue with what I was going for. When you tell me that you see your basketball courts and how and the Bronx and this, that is my point, because I think, especially as kids, right, we all have these places of congregation from which we witness this. So it could be the dirt field, it could be the basketball court. I'm not big into gaming culture, but I'm sure this generation will say like, yeah, when we used to be on Call of Duty or Fortnite and these things, we would have these conversations. It might be the same experience. So I wrote this story that I think a lot of people can identify some of the tropes, even though if it is distinct to my community.
Do you have any connection back to that particular location?
Oh,
that you're still engaged with?
Absolutely.
With
So, in a couple of ways, right? So, my grandfather, whose household I grew up in when all this was happening, he just passed away a couple years ago. But that family home remains our family home. My uncle lives there now. So even when I do go back to Zimbabwe, which is every couple years, that's a stop I make. But one of the important contributions that the book made for me was, I'd kept in touch with some of the folks from back in the day, but as I wrote the book, and especially as it was going through the editing process, I took time to reach out to all the characters, to as many of the characters as I could get a hold of, because some of the stories that I told, especially as I was writing, it's 90% fact, then 10% for storytelling sake,
right.
But I wanted to let some of the guys know that, like, yo, the book is gonna come out, and there may be some stories about you and yours. I just want to let you know, this is what I said. Is that okay? And a lot of them, as many of them gave me their blessings.
That's awesome.
But some of them who I didn't get a hold of, none of them said no, but some of them I didn't get a hold of. So some of those names are changed for. But some of them, like Ta, who is prominent, that guy and I we're still very close today. He
Wow.
still lives at the same place
Really?
next door to where I lived. So, and it's, I always laugh that every time I get get back to Dangamvura, the thing I do is I lean over the fence and I yell, Ta! Like I did when I was 3.
And he's still there?
And he'll be like, Mavima! Then he'll come out, then we'll embrace like we did in kindergarten, and we still
wow.
do that 30 years. It's our ritual,
That's that's a very beautiful story, because too many times, the images that we share about our childhood, while we have different upbringing, can be traumatic. And I'm sure
Absolutely.
you've perhaps experienced some of that. But just the fact that you can go back, and you go back in the book with this,
right.
and just reflect on a moment when you were a child and still acknowledge that is very, very beautiful.
Man, thank you so much, and I thank you for acknowledging that, right? Because we may not see the beauty in our own moments, because to us it's just what we do. But one of the things that I appreciate too about Ta is I later on started, before the book came out, but later on in my life here, I started a non-profit that sends kids in that community to school and does different
wow.
programs, and so that's another way of giving back, right? But also now, he is one of the people who manages it on the ground
Wow.
for me. So we've been able to do that. And a funny anecdote, though, from the book about another character who, as I was writing the story, I remember him playing ping pong, as a therapeutic thing after his parents had passed on. And as I was writing this story, this is one of the guys I then kept in touch with. And thinking like, okay, I wonder if I'm just imagining this. I remember him playing ping pong for sure, but I wonder if I'm overselling how important this was to his life, for the purposes of my storytelling. And if that's the case, cool. I've told the story.
Right.
People, it's not untrue because it's not factual to the situation. It's
Correct.
a thing that a lot of people did, even if it wasn't them. But I was thinking like, I wonder if I imagined this, So much later on, after the book was already in publishing and things like that, I connect with him. I don't know how he got my number, and he messages me. Hey Mavima, it's been 20 years at this point. I'm like, hey, how are you? He's like, yeah. I wanted to ask, is there any way you can get me a ping pong, rackets or whatever? I was like, oh my, so on spot, like 20 years old, he's still doing this, So
Wow.
and now you say, he's a dad, he's a family
so awesome.
man, and he's still doing this. So when you said that, I was like, ding, ding, ding.
Wow.
I
Well, Shingi, thank you so much for sharing this, and thank you for inspiring us to see the dirt field in our own lives, which I hope this book does to everybody else, that gets an opportunity to read this. How can we reach you?
So I'm very active on social media. You can find me as Shingi Mavima on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well as Tenzi Mavima, which I believe will be on our screens. I also have a website, www.shingimavima.com, and I'm you can reach me on any one of those platforms, and I'll be happy to. I'm always looking forward to engage with folks.
That's awesome.
Indeed.
Well, we're happy to engage with you directly, and we look forward to continuing to see other wonderful work that you do.
Indeed.
So thank you so much, Shingi. The book is called Pashena, The Dirt Field. Thank you.